all of the introductory bits. So welcome everybody to the 7th mystery chocolate tasting. Thank you to those of you who are joining for the repeat time, some of you for the 7th time. I'm very grateful to be able to keep connecting with you all about chocolate. If you don't know, I'm Jen and I run Chocolate Ecstasy Tours and now run these online mystery tastings. And this month we are joined by two incredible people who are real stars in the chocolate scene. And I have learned from both of them. So I'm really excited. And I think that if you have questions about chocolate, you're in luck today because these are two absolute experts. So many of you will know Chantal Coady as the founder of Rococo, which she started in 1983, I was about to say 2003, 1983. And she shepherded that business as its creative director for 36 years. And so if you weren't aware, she exited the business in May last year. So she is now working in the chocolate industry still as a sustainable chocolate expert. And she has been involved with the first 99% emission-free chocolate, which is on sale in Fortnum's now. So hopefully she'll tell us a bit more. Thank you, Andrew. I've got mine too, but it's just out of reach. I've made a hot chocolate out of it this afternoon, which was fantastic. And it's an incredible story. So she'll hopefully tell us more about that later. Chantal has an OBE, which was given to her in 2014 for services to chocolate making, which when we used to visit Rococo on the chocolate tours, I used to always tell people that now I had a new goal. I would like an OBE for services to chocolate making. One day. I can wait, it's fine. And last year she was awarded as one of the 50 most influential people in the luxury industry, and also Ernst & Young's a finalist on the shortlist for the Entrepreneur of the Year. And she's written several books about chocolate, so we are very lucky today. And yes, Andrew, bow down to Chantal. She's a hero of mine too. And we also are very lucky to have Andrew Baker, who is a journalist and an author. He spent 23 years at The Telegraph as a journalist, but also as an editor. And he has written 2 books. The first was about his career as a sports writer, sports journalist. And then his most recent book, which I did bring down, did I? Oh dear, I've not done this very well, have I? Andrew's got his book and so has Dom. Thanks guys, I do have it. I can't be trusted with anything. His book is A Bean to Bar Journey for chocolate lovers, and I've now forgotten the title because I don't have it in front of me, but it was about a bean to bar journey around Great Britain, and it has all of his stories of his adventures, which I'm very excited to pick his brain about. He is a prolific tweeter and chocolate eater. So on Twitter, Andrew is CC Andrew Baker, which I think may have started as a reference to carbon copy with emails, but it could just be chocolate connoisseur, chocolate consumer. Yeah. So Andrew knows as much about all the British chocolate makers as I do, if not more, and chocolatiers. So we're going to be testing his knowledge today. So welcome to them both. Thank you for joining me. Just a quick little bit about what's inside your envelope so that for anyone who's new, they know what everything's for. So the chocolates are for eating, funnily enough. You have a sheet of paper, an A4 sheet of paper, which you are welcome to write notes on. Absolutely not necessary. There are some prompts under each chocolate that you may want to just use to just write anything you like. You can write what it reminds you of. You can just write good, bad, fantastic. And that's what the score out of 100 for is, really only for your personal reference, just so that you can look back and go, oh yeah, this is my favorite, and feel free to adjust them. I've done a lot of chocolate tasting at home this year, chocolate judging, which is different from when we judge in a room, because when having the chocolate, instead of it being cleared away, I've often had the opportunity to taste twice and adjust my scores. And it's been really interesting to see how what I've eaten before has affected. So I've found my experience of something different depending on what order I eat it. So if you're not sharing your chocolates with anybody, I recommend trying to just eat half of it as we taste through today, and then you could retaste it and at another time in a different order, and you might experience something different. And if you're able to do that, if you're not, just I hope you enjoy them however you enjoy them. So yeah, feel free to not write notes if you prefer not to. On the sheet of paper though, there is a code which will give you £5 off if you'd like to come on another tasting or a tour at some point. So don't throw that away even if you're not using it. Write it down somewhere. And then the other thing that might be useful for the tasting, this tasting wheel was designed for tasting plain chocolate, unflavoured, and these are all flavour notes that you could find within just a standard chocolate bar. And yes, dairy can be found in dark chocolate. We use that by starting at the centre, basically, if you are struggling to identify what flavour you think you can pick up within a chocolate. It's usually easier to pick up on the broad category first, and then you can go further out within the circle, out to the edge, and get more specific. So when you're judging flavoured chocolates, like we are today, tasting. We're not judging today, we're just tasting and enjoying, so there's no need to think you have to be critical. But this might help you figuring out what flavours are in these chocolates, if any. So yeah, feel free to use that, or don't. Again, entirely up to you. Are we good? All clear? Ready to taste? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen again. One participant can do at a time. That's fine. Why point at lectures? Here we go. Okay, if everybody can go on mute, then you won't end up on screen, which is like probably important because I'm going to record it. So just in case anyone wants to capture those, oh sorry, they're partially hidden perhaps by faces, but social media. And again, reminder about allergens. So the first chocolate we are going to taste is blank screen, blank screen. Okay, that's a really terrible picture. The other ones are better, I promise. The first chocolate is the cube that has a indent of a circle, or a raised circle. That might be better if I show it there. Is that helpful? Everybody got it? And I will show you what it looks like when it is cut. Oh, wrong computer. There we go. It's delicious. That is a good sign. I always find it really hard to taste alongside your... Where did I put Andrew's book? So when it comes to tasting filled chocolates, it's slightly different for those of you who've joined in with any of the bar tastings, which is how we started these mystery tastings. We do a lot of like, smelling and snapping. I prefer to cut my chocolates when I'm judging them. Well, I definitely cut them when I'm judging them, because it is... I can tell you the answer to that nut question privately if you like, but I'd like people to guess. So if it's a concern from an allergen perspective, I will answer you privately. Just let me know. So yeah, I prefer to cut them because what we're looking for in a chocolate is to have a really thin coating around the edge. So you can see from the picture that I've got on screen as well. That is one of the skills of an excellent chocolatier. And it's, if you've ever tried to make chocolate, that's particularly tricky. So the reason for the coating on a filled chocolate is to protect the center. So it helps the shelf life because you're stopping the bit that actually has liquid in it from being exposed to air, which would create mold. So by coating a chocolate, you extend the shelf life for several weeks at a minimum. Well, 7 days really at a minimum, but depending on what's inside, for longer. But what you don't want with the chocolate is to have such a thick shell that you lose the tasting of the middle inside. So I'm going to stop the screen for a minute so that we can all see one another, because I like seeing your faces. So Okay, does anyone recognize this maker or this chocolate? Roast, let's say classy double decker. I like that description. It does taste kind of like cornflakes. It is not cornflakes. Isn't it wafer like a fancy? Not big. Yeah, fair enough, Ian. That makes sense. So what about how do we like this chocolate?
Should I ask?
Thumbs ups? Any? Yeah. So this is one of my favorite chocolates and has been for a very long time. It's been around for a while.
I think I know whose it is and which one it is.
So feel free to share in the chat, Jace, if you think you know who it is, because I'm about to reveal. Yes, so the top is chocolate ganache and the bottom layer is a praline layer. And the praline is made from scratch using hazelnuts and sugar in-house. And then it is mixed with more chocolate and fouilletine, and Jason is correct. I suspected you might get it. So this is William Curley's chocolate. So what did Andrew, Chantal, did you want to share your thoughts on it? And I'll just share my screen again so that people can.
I really loved it because for me it was very, it's a beautiful chocolate. It's beautifully made. All the technical aspects, couldn't say a single word against any of them. But it's also, it's kind of accessible. It's really friendly flavors, and the ganache tasted distinctive. The praline was really scrummy. It was a really, really enjoyable, friendly, user-friendly, wide audience pleasing chocolate.
That's one of the reasons that I chose it. I find there's not many people, I mean, if you really hate nuts, you're not going to love it, but it's just such a beautifully made chocolate. So did I say that inside the as well as chocolate, so it's the fouilletine, which a few people mention that's like the crepes, the wafer. So fouilletine is like I usually describe it like the Kit Kat wafer. It's not quite, but it's a very thin layer, like a pancake that's really crispy, crepe dentelle. And so that gives it that crunch and that wheaty note that a few of you picked up on with the grains note to it. So I love that having the layer of chocolate ganache on top makes sure that the overall experience is really chocolatey. So William, if you are not familiar with him, he is a master chocolatier and patissier. He was the youngest ever head pastry chef at the Savoy Hotel. And he started the business with his name in 2004 with his ex-wife, Suzu, and they had a tiny shop in Richmond, which they had made all the chocolates upstairs for a long time. And then they expanded into Belgravia, closed that, opened again in Belgravia. And he is currently has a shop in Smith's Court near Piccadilly, as well as selling his chocolates in Harrods. He is an ambassador for Amadei. So right from the beginning, he's always used Amadei chocolate, used French cream and butter. So he is fastidious about his ingredients and his chocolate, and everything is made, so all the processes are by hand. So I believe he has a conveyor belt which allows him to coat the chocolates more quickly than hand dipping them with a fork. But apart from that, this particular chocolate would be laid out on a marble or granite slab and then cut with a guitar, which is, for those of you who haven't been here before where I've explained this, it's like a frame with guitar strings, and so you cut into even squares. So you make the praline layer and then pour the ganache on top, and once that's set, you cut them into squares, and which is why you get slightly different sized squares, and it's all looks very artisan, and then coated in the layer, another layer of Amadei chocolate. So this is one of his original chocolates, which has been around for a very long time, and it's one of my favorite pralines out there. But Amadei are one of the early bean to bar makers, not too far from Florence, and it was a female founded business, the first female chocolate maker from the bean, as far as I know, and they won a ton of awards as well. So William won the UK's best chocolatier 4 times in a row, and then they stopped giving it out. He tied one year with Chantal's head chocolatier at the time, Laurent Couture, and then they stopped giving out the UK's best chocolatier because it was just becoming a bit silly having William every time. But I'll just stop sharing again so we can see faces. But it does have a tiny bit of salt in it as well, as most good chocolates do. You're probably the only chocolate. Yeah, William is Scottish, if you weren't aware, and he has a really interesting range of chocolate that calls on his British heritage and his fascination with Japan and all the times he visited. So his first wife Suzu is Japanese, and so he spent a lot of time in Japan as well. So he has lots of chocolates with miso and Japanese black vinegar, which is the chocolate I was going to choose for you, and then I thought I would choose something. We didn't have. I thought it'd be nice to make sure we had a mix of textures and in the box as well. And I just love this chocolate, so I'm glad you liked it. Now I'd started with a classic because what I discovered from tasting, as I mentioned before, is that what we taste first affects what we taste and experience later. So if you go straight into really delicately flavored chocolates without having tasted any chocolate previously, it can be hard to, your palate takes a little bit of time to warm up. So I thought we'd start with something that was quite classic before we move on to the next chocolate. So the next chocolate is, does anyone have any further comments or suggestions? All right, so I'm going to share my screen again so you can see it. The next chocolate is, ta-da! Is that quick? Okay, just a momentary. So this is your second chocolate, the shiny purple dome. And I will show you what the inside of this one looks like as well. We have another 2-layered chocolate. I didn't even taste that one with you. I was going to. But...
That's really nice.
Interesting suggestions. Chantal, any thoughts you want to share?
It's very subtle.
It is extremely subtle. I know what it is and I struggle.
Got a very delicate shell, which again, the chocolate itself hasn't got a particularly strong flavour. It has a bit of plum or something like that coming through, slow maybe. And then you've got the ganache layer. But it's beautifully executed. But it's not screaming at me, certainly. And I know you're trying to come in subtly as to follow William's absolute classic, beautiful, buttery and crunchy ganache, which was amazing as well.
So I love that. That's yeah, you can see why Chantal is the master, because without knowing anything, she managed to figure out the ingredients in the chocolate. Well done. So this is a 2-layer. So we have a spiced plum jam. It's a 72% Sautermé coating in the chocolate, and the ganache layer does have sloe gin in it. So well done. Many of you got plum. Well done. And liqueur, yes, it's great. Yeah, so I appreciate that one is much subtle. This is one I didn't taste before ordering it. It's part of the Christmas collection, but it sounded interesting amongst the mix of everything else that we had. So yeah, it was more subtle than I expected, but it's nice to have a balance of things that.
Who made it?
And who made it? This one was made by Cara up in Scotland, who runs Caramiche. So I will share the screen so you can see her name and the logo. bear with me. This is the first time I'm trying the sharing the screen thing, so you can let me know afterwards if it's helpful or if it's annoying. Okay, there we go. Oh, I forgot to update it. Sorry, that should have said spiced plum and sloe gin, not just sloe gin. I meant to come back and edit that once I got the name right, and I didn't. It was just a placeholder for my sake. Thanks, Natasha. I'm glad. So yeah, that was by Karamishu. This is a family-run business, and the chocolates are more or less made to order. And it began in 2010, and they work quite closely with a lot of other Scottish businesses as well. So yeah, it's Cara is the head chocolatier there, and they had a really just such an incredible selection of seasonal chocolates that I really struggled to decide which one to order. The other one that I was tempted to order was and this is where I'm going to bungle the pronunciation, but Cranachan, is it the Scottish porridge that's with whiskey and berries, I think, as well, and that sounded amazing. That was a white chocolate, but this is the one that Cara thought we should try. So there you have it. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Now the next one is, actually I should just share my screen again, that would be better. Is her logo a cocoa flower? Yes, yes it is. Good observation. Oh, I can do that on here. Yes, this is a cocoa flower, which I have a picture of here. Anyone would like to see if you haven't seen this before? Is that lining up? Oh. Very pretty. So that's how the fruit begins, as a flower, and you get thousands of flowers on a tree, but only about 1% of them turn into pods. And they smell amazing as well. They're kind of, I think they're beautiful. So the next chocolate is third chocolate. This is one I don't have a photo of the inside of, but it's the heart. So I can show you the center. So if you look at my screen now, you'll see it is. And I stop sharing so I can see your.
I wonder how that happens. Sorry? Yeah. No.
Any thoughts on it? Yeah. It's interesting how it takes a few seconds for 30 seconds to be able to taste anything.
That's quite clever decoration.
Very Christmassy. Yes, this is from the Christmas collection as well. I was so tempted to save this one for the February tasting. Being a love heart.
Yeah.
But it is quite Christmassy. And so if you're getting anything gritty, it's possibly sugar migration. So that can happen over time where the sugar, I mean, Chantal could probably explain that better than I can, but sugar can travel within the chocolate and sort of crystallize under the shell.
Praline sort of separates it out.
It just hadn't stuck to the outside.
Okay. So the Talia did very well. Well done. It is mulled wine. I don't know if Andrew or Chantal will have any thoughts they want to share on this. It's okay if you don't. I will do the big.
Is it a water ganache then?
It's not actually. No, it does contain cream. At least I'm sure it does. Let me see. Is the chocolatier here to correct me? She's not, that I can see. Are you here? Are you here? Yeah,
It was. I thought the texture was very light. It felt like a water ganache.
It does feel like a water ganache.
And also very delicate. The whole flavour.
I don't think it's a water ganache, but I can see why you would think that. So
I like that. For me, the spice flavors arrived before the chocolate, and the chocolate just kind of backed them up later on, which I really liked. I thought it came together very, very nicely in the mouth. And I had no problems with the texture, but if people got some little sugar crumbs, well, that's not the worst thing in the world.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Mine was super smooth, and that's a lovely, again, quite gentle, not too aggressive blend of spices and flavors. Worked really well with the background chocolate. Delish.
I like that it wasn't, although it is mulled wine, it's not a huge whack of alcohol either, which I mean, I do enjoy the chocolates with a big whack of alcohol too, I have to admit, but it's more of a gentle Christmassy flavour. So this chocolate, I will show you the packaging, is made by Philippa Diggle, and this is part of her Christmas selection, which I ordered from her to decide which one to choose, and there were some really good ones. I was very tempted to give you the brandy butter caramel. Sorry, if that would have been more exciting too, but which is also fabulous. I think they're sold out for now, but she has so many amazing other chocolates as well. Her cinnamon, if you enjoy cinnamon, her cinnamon chocolate, which is not in the Christmas range, it's in the classic range, which is her favorite, is incredible. So it's really one of the best cinnamon blends that I've tried. I first found Philippa's chocolate when I was judging for the Academy of Chocolate, and I didn't know whose they were, but I thought they were incredible, and I didn't recognize them, and so I found out after all the judging was complete, who made it, and then once I found out, I had to order some. So yeah, she really makes wonderful chocolates, and she's only young. She is a cordon bleu trained chef, and she runs her business from London, so she doesn't have a physical presence, but for a while she was a pastry chef for a private jet airline. Probably not so useful right now, but she's not doing it currently. So she's sells her chocolates online. So I will share my screen so you can see her name written down. There you go. So that's an old wine. Diggle chocolates, be like a brandy as well. But yeah, her other chocolates, there were so many wonderful chocolates. I think there's a chance that her chocolates may appear in a future tasting down the line. So our next chocolate is this one. So this is the one that's wrapped in gold foil. So I just took a photo of it outside of its foil, but
truffle, didn't it?
Gold foil, brown foil, brown foil. And if you'd like to see the inside, and I think you would, it is a very cool chocolate to do a cut through of. And some of you who are familiar with the chocolate world might already recognize, one of my favorite things about this chocolate is its size. It's just because I'm green.
I'm sort of rested.
Really?
I think so.
Jamminess.
Not an easy one to eat elegantly.
Who cares? We're not here to be elegant. At least I'm not.
I'm the one on camera. So are you, Maggie. No, I definitely eschew elegance for enjoyment every time.
Sesame, I hate sesame.
Very chocolatey.
Can I say this?
Doesn't taste jammy, it's smoking.
What do we think? Thumbs ups? You like it? Really good, so good. I'm so happy you like it. Your descriptions are pretty fabulous. It's like a full meal. Honestly, I ate one of these after lunch yesterday because I ordered some to share with family, and then well, we didn't see family, so I'm eating them. I also got sent some for my birthday too, so I have quite a few of these in my house. But yeah, I ate one. I was like, I think I'm done now. It's very, very chocolatey. He was like, yes. So you are all. Does anyone recognise the maker of this one? I had another thing. Yeah, this is Jamie. Yes, this is made by Jamie. And Jamie, JK Fine Chocolates. I'll share his so you can all see what his logo looks like. Jamie is passionate chocolatier, but also makes chocolate from bean to bar as well. And his signature chocolate, it's very confusing having two screens. I keep trying to click. We've not had one of Jamie's before. Now, I haven't repeated any chocolatiers yet. So many. So JK Fine Chocolates is the name of his business, and this is his gorgeous design, which I believe is influenced from his time spent in Costa Rica, where he first got excited about cocoa, as many of us do, which was in 2014, and then he came back up and set up this business. And so what I love about all of his truffles is they are all this layer. Oh, I should have used the other picture. So if I can I go back? Yeah. If you want to have a look at again at this cut through, you can see that the center, so they're all triple truffles. That's all of the chocolates that he makes are triple truffles. And so you have the center, which has a layer of chocolate around it. And then you have a layer of ganache. And then you have another layer. And within the outside layer, you have cocoa nibs. So that's the tripleness. So it's only a small range of chocolates that Jamie makes. So it's hazelnut and salted caramel, and then there's the palm sugar, panela, and I think there's another one. Jamie, if you want to chip in with that, feel free. And so this one is his chocolate fudge. Triple truffle, chocolate fudge cake triple truffle, and it's a 2-star winner at the Great Taste Awards. So this is his newest chocolate, and it is just super indulgent and rich, and yeah, I love it.
Really interesting to see people's comments regarding what they thought it might taste like, which is it's nice to hear what it resembles. So that's good. Yeah,
it's nice when it's you've delivered on when you don't tell people in advance.
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. Love it.
I highly recommend trying some of his other ones, although you have to be quick because this was Jamie's last Christmas, and he's not going to be making chocolates anymore, at least not for sale after sort of March, April next year. So if you want some, stock up. Although, they like all the chocolates that I'm sharing with you, will have quite a short shelf life. So you just have to buy some now and enjoy them for the next few months, and then you can move on to the other chocolatiers perhaps. No, it's very sad. I'm upset too. If you ate a minimum, this chocolate is so great because you really you would feel sick if you ate 6 in one go. Well, I would, and I'm well practiced. I like these sad reactions. I don't know if Chantal or Andrew, do you want to share any thoughts on chocolate?
Just quickly, I mean, obviously it tasted completely delicious, but I thought the different textures were fantastic. That's really, really tricky to do. And to have something that gives such a wonderful kind of mouth-filling, cakey feel and melts as well. I mean, really, I salute you. That was a terrific piece of work. Absolutely delicious.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. I love honest and open feedback. It's what I adore about the chocolate industry. That's great. Thank you.
I thought it was a fantastically executed, incredibly indulgent, rich and buttery, and almost it's kind of lactic butter profile coming through there. Not sure what you used in it, or maybe it was the cream. Anyway, absolutely delicious, and I'm sorry to hear that your chocolate making career is coming to an end. You could good to know more about that at some point, but maybe you don't want to talk about it. Anyway, congratulations.
Hopefully it's just a pause.
Quite possibly. You never know. You never know what the future holds. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad you all enjoyed that one. I think it's I know in the past when it's come into tastings, people have criticised it for its size because they think that something needs to be small to be elegant and delicate and refined, but you can't make the 3 layers that Jamie does without making it that size. And frankly, who would? I don't know. I love the fact that it has so much going on. You only need fewer, maybe not just one, but fewer. Right, next chocolate is. It's going to become obvious. Okay, so the chocolate is the yellowy orangey one. I love that you've already checked, Natasha. You will be opening again in January. I think most chocolatiers are closed for the next week or so because they're exhausted, frankly. So yes, this is the inside of this one. Cut it so I can enjoy it with you. It does taste like there's rum in it. Does not. I was hesitant to include this chocolate because I know that this flavour can be a bit divisive. It's not everybody that likes it, and this was the ingredient that I was referring to that is not one of the official, I think, 14 allergens, but some people are allergic to it. It is a banana caramel. So I think most of you are getting that pretty quickly. Anyone recognize the chocolatier? They've then moved from their traditional format of chocolate. So you might know the chocolatier but not recognize them unless this is one of their more recent creations from this year. And it won I believe a silver in the International Chocolate Awards this year, possibly a bronze. I should have double checked. But I find I find that it's quite difficult to get, or rare to find, a banana flavored chocolate that actually tastes of banana and doesn't taste of that kind of McDonald's milkshake banana. So yeah, I don't know if you, Andrew or Chantal, you have any thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, it's banana, but it's subtly banana. It's not beat you over the head banana, which I think is the kind of banana flavor that you were alluding to just then, which is not really like the taste of a real banana. That banana flavor that's out there is really quite nasty. This is a gentle flavor, and so gentle actually that it took quite a few of us, myself included, a little while to work around to identifying banana in there. Lovely, sweet, gentle. Texture was really good as well. I mean, I'd like more of it. It was too small. Got
I agree.
by Jamie's. So.
Yeah, all chocolatiers should make them Jamie's size, I think.
It was like my Millie's. Whenever she gets if we've got a few bananas a little bit going black on the outside, she fries them in butter.
Yes. With
a little bit of sugar, and it's reminded me of that. Very subtle, and we usually end up throwing in a bit of Rivers rum, setting them on fire.
Exactly.
So with Grenada chocolate, yes.
Yep, that's like my favorite dessert. If I don't have any dessert in the house, but I have bananas, I'll fry some bananas, and then just like before they're finished frying, I'll just like break up some chocolate and just put them like sort of stab little tiny studs of chocolate in the pieces of banana, and so they start to melt, and then you bring it out, and yeah, rum is good, or some like pouring cream on top is also good. So yeah, if you're ever stuck for a dessert, highly recommend it.
So who made that one?
Yeah, Tommy and Jason, well done. This is made by Loudon. So many of you in the industry will be familiar with Loudon because they've been around since 2007. So this is a husband and wife run business, Son and Stephen. Trigg is his surname, and Son is Singaporean and Stephen is from North Yorkshire, so they live in Leeds. And here we go. Son spent 10 years living in Belgium, which is where she first got interested in chocolate, and Stephen also spent a lot of time traveling the world when he was small as well. So I was reading his story, and they met in a bar, which is really cool. They are so incredibly passionate and so particular about. Son will not launch anything unless she thinks it's perfect, and she has very, very high standards. So she'd been working on her brownie recipe for 10 years before she launched it 2 years ago. I first met Stephen at a food festival, the very first when they launched in 2007, and since then they've gone on to win over 40 different awards for their chocolates. You might recognize their chocolates as being for a long time they were all rectangles and almost all dark chocolates, but they have really intense fillings, so lime, sour cherry, raspberry and rose, blackcurrant, and some non-fruity ones as well. And they now sell brownies too, but they also they sell their chocolates to British Airways for the first class cabin, and we're selling them to ocean liners as well, which I'm guessing not right now. But yeah, their chocolates are beautiful. So they're sort of Jackson Pollock style splashing on them, and they would sell them in a plastic CD case for a while. Not anymore, I think environment reasons, but it was very beautiful to begin with. So yeah, worth checking out their chocolates as well. And the brownie was definitely worth the wait. And this year they won some awards for their vegan chocolates and their chocolate hazelnut praline, which is in a jar, which is also vegan. And it won an award at the International Chocolate Awards as well. And very jealous, Jason. And it is incredible. I didn't realize I was judging it, but I did judge that one, and then then I saw it won an award, and it's really fantastic. So if you're a fan of Nutella, or if you used to be a fan of Nutella until you got sick of the amount of sugar and vegetable oil in it, then seek out their banana praline. Oops, I should have kept sharing. Let's share again, sorry. So you don't need me to show you the next one, do you? Because it's obvious. It's the last chocolate. It is the beautiful tall dome. I will share my screen anyway, so you can see what the cut through looks like, just because I went to the effort of taking a photo and editing it. So there you go. Excuse I'm not able to cut perhaps neatly enough. This is the 6th and final chocolate.
That's got a very distinctive flavour.
One you're familiar with, I'm thinking?
I think so. I won't say anything yet.
Yeah, thanks. Good to give everybody else the time to guess. I know when I did the tasting with Paul, when he was my second guest, and he announced his answer so quickly that nobody got a chance to guess. Interesting. Coconut, marzipan, cherry. No one's got it yet. Do you like it? This flavour, again, can be a little bit divisive. I used to really dislike it.
I love it. It's very, very rich.
Super rich.
I can see how it might divide opinion.
Yeah, I discovered today when I was doing some more research about the ingredient why I didn't like it. This one I think is really elegantly done. It's still, you know, strong, but I like the texture is fantastic. Yes, well done, Dom. And so this is tonka. So for those of you who don't know, tonka is a spice. I'm pretty sure that's what you're going to say, right, Chantal?
Yes, and it's banned in America.
Yes, it is illegal because it's it's a hallucinogenic. So have a fun afternoon, everybody. Bye.
Now she tells us.
You'd have to eat a lot of this chocolate in order to experience its hallucinogenic properties. But I was aware of a chocolatier in Florida who used it, and the FDA, I think it is, the Federal Drug Administration, their team came in their full like suits into his chocolate shop and confiscated all of his chocolate and gave him like $1,000 fine. I think he was most upset about the fact that he lost all the chocolate as well. So yeah, sorry, I was saying it's a spice, which is a it looks, I've got a picture that will help. It's a bit like the size of an almond, and it's generally described as having the sort of scent and flavor of a combination of vanilla, almond, cherry, cinnamon. So lots of your descriptions of marzipan and cherry were all what's usually used to describe tonka. It's supposedly one of the ingredients in Coca-Cola. But what I learned today is that it's often used for, when you see vanilla flavoring, the artificial vanilla, they often use tonka for that, which is possibly why I used to not like it, because it reminded me of cheap foods, which are often using fake vanilla rather than real vanilla. But when you have it done delicately, I had a tonka and speculoos chocolate years ago, judging the Academy of Chocolate Awards, which was superb. Yeah, it's like vanilla with an H, yeah, small amounts. This is a strong one, but I still like it. So let me share my screen so you can find out who made it. So the aim of these tastings is to bring you a variety of chocolates and to introduce you to chocolatiers that you may not have tried their particular chocolates or may not have tried any of their chocolates. And in this case, I suspect that none of you have tried these chocolates before, because this business was set up during lockdown, which is exciting. And here it is. So Alexandra is originally from Romania, but she came to the UK 5 years ago to train as a pastry chef. She's been working in restaurants, but since March, not. And so she was incredibly passionate about chocolate and decided to set up her own chocolate shop. And I first learned about Alex through Layla, who actually used to work at Rococo. Layla's currently in Copenhagen making chocolates for fun. She's also a pastry chef. And so Alex has an incredible selection of chocolates, of which I have now tried all of them. And this one I thought would be interesting. I was going to choose the amazing orange contro with spiced fruits, which is like a layered chocolate. But in case some of you weren't a huge fans of alcohol, I had already agreed on the other two alcohol ones. So there you go. And here's a picture of the tonka beans in case you were curious. So it's like the seed of grows on a tree. I guess you'd call that a fruit, maybe. Nuts, like a bit like a nut, but yeah, that's what they look like, little wrinkled beans. From Alex's website, I love this quote that I read, that chocolate brought color, happiness, and purpose into my life again. And frankly, like, what more do you want from chocolate? So I thought that was really lovely.
You can tell that a bit from the appearance of the chocolate as well, which was really, really pretty. Sometimes chocolates are good looking and then they disappoint, but you know, that was beautifully made. The inside it was all beautifully done technically. The outside was exceptionally pretty as well. So that really, really helped.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them left. Oh, down. I was hoping I should show you one, but I've clearly already eaten it. They're all beautiful domes. Oh, wait, can't tip up chocolate. All beautiful domes. The one I nearly chose for you all, I've already eaten, sorry, but it was a funfetti, which is like a cheesecakey inside with sprinkles through the middle. So it was amazing. The cut through of that was just stunning. Yeah, that's very, very hard choosing hot chocolates for these.
The texture was fantastic, and also the thinness of the shell.
Yeah,
which is, it must be very hard to make them that thin and not have them breaking.
Yes, really. And they arrived perfectly both times. The first batch she sent got lost in Royal Mail, so it took 10 days to get to me. So they weren't good to eat by that point. But so I got a second batch.
One thing with Williams, the first one, you were talking about the fact he has an enrobing machine. It's quite controversial between English and French chocolate makers, or it used to be, because the English hand-dipped ones, they would often be dipped twice, and they actually really enjoyed the fact that there was a very thick layer. And the French, on the other hand, would always try and get a thin layer, and those machines, apart from pouring a curtain of chocolate, which goes quite quickly, they also blow it off, so you get as little as possible. So I think they're kind of stylistic points. Some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. But
yeah, it's at the chocolate shop in Brighton. I've gone blank now.
Audrey's.
Thank you. Yes, we used to visit on the Brighton chocolate tour, and I blame the baby. Forgetfulness. Yeah, Audrey's still make everything by hand. If you haven't been, it's such a beautiful shop. They make the rose and violet creams for Fortnum's. And so they have the indentations for the fondants, and yeah, they double dip all of their chocolates, because on the first dip you don't always get a full coating. But I think in that case, having that thick layer you want that on a fondant. But what you were saying about the French chocolatier having the thin chocolate, one of the things William makes his chocolate in the French style, which is to say that the aim is that the first taste is chocolate and the last taste is chocolate, and so the middle flavors are often very subtle. Well, not necessarily subtle, but they don't overpower the chocolate, so you're left with the chocolate at the end. And to Chantal's point, like having that thin layer of chocolate is part of their style. Yeah, it's all favourites. Yeah, please share. Jamie's banana caramel tonka bean. So, I would expect that from knowing your tastes, Natasha. Natasha's one of my tour guides. It's yeah, the white Chantal. Someone's mentioned Chantal's the white chocolate cardamom bars from Rococo. So Chantal created those, but just a reminder, she no longer works with Rococo. But she has a new.
Well, I have to show you my. Can you see that?
Detective.
This is the white chocolate with cardamom. It also has wild forage fennel in it and sea salt. Yeah. That's one of my new creations, and it's really. It's a big hit.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Yum.
I think, like, I always introduce people to the white chocolate cardamom on the Chelsea tour, and people who didn't like white chocolate, I would convert like 8 out of 10 of them once they tried that chocolate. But add the addition of fennel and salt, I think I would convert all of them. So that business, if you missed it, Chantal's new business is called the Chocolate Detective, which is her, and the logo, the image, is a drawing by Quentin Blake, which is just wow, to be immortalised by Quentin Blake. Just a reminder for those of you, it's the illustrator from the Roald Dahl books. So very cool.
Yeah, so that's one of the highlights of my year, I have to say. And the Chocolate Detective, the website is up and running, but it's literally just started, and I've just started up again making these chocolates, so it's early days and small steps.
And one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning about Chantal's incredibly passionate about the sustainability of chocolate, and so she's making sure that there's minimum impact to the environment with everything that she will create going forwards, and was behind the 99% emission free, or very heavily involved in the one for Fortnum's, which is delicious. So it's really interesting. I'm trying it again today after when I first tried it, and the first time I tried it I got a lot of like alcohol, like it was really quite intense, so it's like rum, whereas it felt much more delicate today. I don't know if it's because it's aged a little bit longer, but the 85% is so incredibly not bitter. I wouldn't say it's sweet exactly, but it's really, yeah, really impressive. So there's a 71, an 85 and a 100 that come in the box.
Yeah, they're definitely, they're a fantastic example of the classic Trinitario, and made in a way which is optimizing the kind of chocolate brownie notes rather than burnt notes. And there's a lot of delicate things like fig and plum and leather which come through as well.
Yeah, they're really wonderful, and it's all just like the story of it, how it arrives, and on the website and on Chantal's website as well. There's a 1.5-minute long video about the whole process of sailboat and horse and cart and road boats, like rowboats.
Yes, no, it's an amazing thing. I mean, the chocolate was on its way from Grenada at the time when the company was taken over, Rococo, that is. But I managed to secure it, and I had a fantastic conversation with Fortnum & Mason, and together we brought it as a special edition to Fortnum's, and they were very excited about it and were amazing, helping to get all the little final details, because it actually got to Holland, and then we had to get it back from Holland. So that went on another sailing boat that was coming from Sweden, stopped off at Holland, and then went round to Carlingford Lough in Belfast, where unfortunately, due to 2 very, very big storms that came through in August, I was unable to meet it, but I was there waiting. But then it took another couple of weeks. But yeah, if anyone wants to taste that, I've actually got a little special edition that I've made using some of that chocolate, but it's pure Grenada, 85%.
Oh, amazing!
So you can buy that. You can buy that in. It's not, because Fortnum's was about £25 a box. This is a little bit more affordable. So that's available on my website. That's
really good to know. Just for those of you who are new, I will email everybody, because you've registered on this call. I'll email you the list of all the chocolatiers and to Chantal's website, and where you can buy Andrew's book as well. So yeah, that's the 85% was actually my favourite, so I'm glad that's the one that you've got. So both factories in Grenada, who process from the bean to the bar, and in Nearinogs in Ireland, are both solar powered electricity. So yeah, really ethical. And if you have joined me on earlier tastings, you might remember Nearinogs was the chocolate we had, I think, in the second tasting, which was the Doulaman bar. So with the Doulaman, which is the seaweed, and the gorse flour, which is, yeah, really fabulous chocolate as well. So yeah, if you need to leave now, that's fine. But does anyone have questions for Chantal or Andrew? I have a few if you want to hang out while I ask them, if they don't mind staying a little longer. If you want to share your favourites as well, I'd love to, feel free to throw those into the chat. I'd love to see what you enjoyed the most. But I do recommend trying them again in a different order to see. So when we judge chocolates for the International Chocolate Awards, we taste a couple of chocolates that we're not judging first in order to warm up our palates, because you actually get better at detecting flavours if you do that. So I found that with the second chocolate, I tasted it better after I'd eaten a bit of chocolate than I did immediately, which is why I had it second, because it's like I think the balance of it being delicate and not overwhelmed by the banana or the chonka. But also, if you try it first, it's very difficult to taste anything from it.
I started off today, I warmed up today with a tiny little bit of thin 70% from Boston, up in Sheffield. Very good to sort of balance my palate before I started tasting anything else.
Excellent. I said I had a nice hot chocolate made with the 71% from the sailboat chocolate, which was excellent. So now I don't really get to taste in the same way while I'm talking, so I had to make sure I had some chocolate in. Cool. Oh, here we go. Andrew, how do you keep your information up to date with an industry?
That's tricky. It was when you're writing a book, that's really tricky, because if you're on social media, the point of that is that you can be really up to date, you can link to people, and that's great because you can keep people in the picture. When you're writing a book, the deadlines are a long way ahead of where you would like to be. So in a couple of cases, there are people I write about in the book who are no longer doing business in the same way that they were when I wrote about them in the book. What I hope to make clear is that there are a lot of really good people involved in making chocolate in this country. And if sometimes a shop closes or a business changes direction or how they go about things changes a little, with a tiny bit of detective work, you can still find the good chocolate makers. So not all the people I wrote about in the book are still in business in quite the same way, but I don't think anybody walks away from chocolate for long.
No. I mean,
if you look for them on the basis of what you can find in my book, I'm sure you'll find them. Otherwise, you know, follow people on social media who enjoy chocolate. There's such a fantastic network in this country, and these tastings that Jen does are a really, really good example of it, because you get people on here who love chocolate. Like me, I'm a fan. I don't make chocolate, I just love to eat it. And you get people on here who make chocolate, who are happy to come on and share their thoughts and share their experiences with other makers. There's a really great community, a chocolate community in this country, and it's really easy to plug into it thanks to the enthusiasm of the people involved. So, I mean, absolutely, please have a look in my book, but to get up to date, plug into Jen's expertise and follow some other people on social media as well. So
yeah.
stuff out there to find.
Do follow Andrew on Twitter, because yeah, he's tasting new things every day, which is just, I'm very envious of his colleagues at the Telegraph or his family, whoever gets to share them. I'm assuming he does share them. I think he does.
I was going to say thank you so much, Jen, because I haven't come across a lot of these small makers, and I couldn't possibly say which was my favourite, but they were all really exceptional and fantastically executed. And it's very, very nice to see that some people have come up from the ashes of this terrible year and started creating wonderful chocolate. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There was a question for you, Chantal, if you have time to answer it, about the involvement. You were involved in the Roald Dahl bars, that was before you left Rococo.
Yes, the Roald Dahl bars were absolutely under my watch. They were very carefully curated flavours to go with the particular stories. Charlie, of course, was out of the picture, because that brand is owned by Nestle. So you could do any of the other titles. But yes, we had a lot of fun making them. Actually, Karen Waller was one of the main chocolate people in the company at the time who helped. But it was really fun and a great challenge. I'm not sure if they still exist.
I haven't been in for a while. I think so.
It may be that they will stop producing those. They're quite, there was a lot of work that went into them, and
yeah,
it might just prove to be too complicated.
Yeah, they were. I remember talking to the team at the time about how challenging they were to create. I like that question. I'm gonna. Are you happy to answer that one again? So, how do you see a difference launching the Chocolate Detective versus Rococo with respect to educating consumers about chocolate? It kind of ties into a question I wanted to ask as well, but go ahead with that one first.
Well, the consumers are so much more educated now than they were when I started, and actually personally I am as well, because when I set up Rococo, I was a novice. I knew very little. I've learned a huge amount on the job, and I feel like I'm still learning every day. I hope I won't get to a point where I feel like I know it all. I think you just have to be incredibly open and excited about tasting and trying new things all the time. So yeah, I suppose I'm taking a few of my absolute. You've got some foundations and cornerstones and classic things which you'll always love, and then just building on those. But as you were saying, sustainability is absolutely critical for me. The other thing which is really important for me is the cocoa farmers and the people who are making right at the beginning of the chain, who are the ones who get paid so poorly. Some of them are not paid at all. Some of them paid very little.
The
chocolate company I'm actually very, very involved with still, and they are having a terrible time, as most chocolate or cocoa growers around the world are, because most countries have been locked down to one extent or another, and trade has been very severely interrupted. So it's quite possible they haven't been paid for months, and they were already on the breadline. So it's tough.
Yes, the Grenada Chocolate Company, the farmers are all part of a cooperative, that's right, and then the farmers, the factory workers are paid double the average wage for those roles as well. So it's a really incredible company, and what Chantal's doing all ties in with that as well. I was curious to hear Chantal's thoughts on, having been in the chocolate industry for so long, what some of the pivotal changes have been, because even in the 15 years that I've been involved, I've seen it change so much. But so from 1983, if there are any significant events or different things that you thought have really been step changes within it, or if it's just all been kind of linearly changing.
I mean, huge changes. When in 1983, white chocolate was probably considered to be the poshest chocolate around.
Really?
Yeah, dark chocolate at that time, if you can believe it, most people's benchmark was Cadbury's Bourneville that had 22% cocoa. It was so burnt and bitter, they had to add all that extra sugar to make it edible.
Wow.
Artificial vanilla was a normal ingredient, even in some quite classy chocolates. I think that's one big step change. And we've gone from natural vanilla to no vanilla with quite a few of the small bean to bar makers, because actually vanilla, delicious as it is, it masks some off notes. So unless you're really confident in your beans and the quality, it's quite useful to chuck in a load of vanilla. I think the other thing we're talking about is percentages, and 20% to 70% being a benchmark, and then everyone would say, well, if it's 70%, it must be good. And of course, that's not at all true. There's loads of horrible 70%. There's some really good chocolate, which is less than 70%. So yeah, I'd say it's like going around buying your wine by the alcohol content on the label, rather than the grape or the maker or the country or any of the other more subtle markers.
Yeah, that's always the analogy I use as well. Like you wouldn't go into a wine shop and ask for a 14% red. That's my favourite. It's the vanilla thing's so interesting too, because it's I think now you will only find vanilla in what's considered like in expensive chocolate if it's been in there for a really long time and the company's been around for 100 years and that's their recipe and they're afraid of changing it. But I find it's so obvious now when vanilla's in a bar that it's just weird. It doesn't taste like good chocolate, but it is excellent at masking poor traits in the beans. And I also had a question for Andrew about his book, which if you haven't got his book already, and I'm assuming you're here because you love chocolate, you would love Andrew's book. You don't get to be a staff writer on the Telegraph for 23 years without being an excellent writer, and it's a really easy and enjoyable read. It's not just a guidebook that requires you to actually be able to go and visit the places. It's good for armchair travel, good if you do want a guidebook. But I was curious because I'm quite envious that Andrew has done this journey. So I'd love to know how long it took him to go, because, you know, I'm making plans to all of them, and if there was any anecdotes he has from his experience.
It took the only trouble with being a staff writer for the Telegraph is that I'm still a staff writer for the Telegraph, and they weren't prepared to give me fully paid leave to go off and eat chocolate all over the country for a whole year. I don't understand why.
It's very disappointing.
So I could only go at the weekends. I took long weekends and drove very carefully all over the UK to visit chocolate makers all over the UK. And the one thing that I discovered, apart from the fact they're all really, really, really nice people, is that so many of them live in wonderful, beautiful, incredibly difficult to find places. And I understand that one of the reasons to go into making chocolate in the first place is that you can do it pretty much anywhere. If you have you can get yourself a properly equipped kitchen and good supply lines, you can be wherever you want to be. So if you want to be on top of a mountain on the Welsh border, if you want to be in a deeply hidden valley in Cornwall, if you want to be overlooking a beautiful bay in Dorset, and I have specific people in mind for all of these places, if you want to be in Cleethorpes, and why not, there's all sorts of, you can just do that. You can just set yourself up and do that. So these are lovely people who live in beautiful places, but it was very difficult to find them. And in at least 3 of these cases, the sat-nav completely gave up. I don't know where to go. So it was like old style travel with an actual physical map and stopping and asking people directions. And that for me was part of the joy of it. Apart from getting to eat delicious chocolate and meet lovely people, I got to see some really beautiful places that I would never have been to without this strange quest I was on.
I'm very excited to follow in your footsteps once we travel again, and potentially tie it in with some bakery visits as well. If you you know me, I know I'm also very passionate about croissants and cake and dessert too. So if you have time, I have questions that I'd love to hear the answers from both Andrew and Chantal. But feel free if you have other questions to ask them, and if we can't answer them now, then I'm sure they will let me know and I can pass the answer on to you. So I'm curious, 3 things. One is, do you have a preferred method or time of day of eating chocolate? That's 2 of the things. And then the third question is, for people who are perhaps newer to their chocolate journey, if there's some advice you would give for things that you look for when you're buying chocolate, or that we think we should be looking for. So that's the method. A method of eating chocolate, and shoving it in is a perfectly acceptable answer, even if you're a connoisseur, I think.
I'll go first on this one. As an enthusiastic amateur, I will eat chocolate at any time and under any circumstances. If I have any routine at all, it is that I eat the chocolate that I'm going to concentrate on for the day. If it's a new one to me, I will try and eat it before lunch and a long time after my previous meal or snack. So I've got a fairly clear, clean palate, and I'm fairly hungry, and all my senses are kind of switched on. And there are 2 advantages to that. One is that I'm coming at it with a kind of blank slate, which is good. The other is that really good chocolate is a very slight appetite suppressant. So in a funny kind of way, eating chocolate before you have lunch, in my case, means that I'm slightly less likely to eat too much lunch. So I get a clearer view of my chocolate, and I also eat slightly less lunch, which is a good way. And when it comes to buying chocolate for myself, which I do an enormous amount, I have a kind of philosophy, which is to try and look for good chocolate made by good people in the right way, made by people whose hearts are in the right place, and who have the right kind of level of respect for the people who grow the chocolate and the people who work in the chocolate factories, and who just do things the right way. It's a confusing world, the world of ethics in chocolate, but there are good people out there, and if you can find them, then you can eat with a clear conscience, which is incredibly important.
That's so true. I don't know if any of you are experiencing this now with having tasted the chocolates. So I know when we find on the chocolate tours and after chocolate judging, it's a weird thing of not feeling hungry, like knowing that there's not actually much in your stomach, but all the tiny bits of chocolate that you've eaten make you not really feel particularly hungry. So it's it is very useful if you're wanting to eat less. Although, Chantal, did you have any thoughts, any answers to my question?
Well, I might have been tasting chocolate for a little bit longer than Andrew, and I think I've become a bit allergic to it actually. So I love chocolate, but I really can't eat too much. And at the judging of all the chocolate awards, I used to do that all the time, and then I backed off partly because actually one of the things that I wasn't allowed to do when I was judging was enter my own chocolate. So I took a little break and entered some, but in fact it makes me feel really quite ill if I have too much. I get kind of buzzy and headachy. I think I have a propensity to migraines. So I have to eat chocolate on a full stomach. It hasn't got to be immediately after a meal, but if I have had nothing to eat, it sets me off much more seriously than if my stomach is lined a little bit. So I guess it's all the theobromine and other things in it. But yes, I love it, but I respect it as well.
That's so interesting. My heart is racing now, and I don't think I'm just like nervous, but the sailboat chocolate, hot chocolate that I had after I had it, I was like, and I'm also quite, I was quite buzzy before the tasting. So I have the same thing if I have too much chocolate, and I find the headaches happen for me if I have a lot of chocolate in one day for judging, or just because I have a day where I need a lot of chocolate. And then if I don't have much the next day, either that day or the day after, I get quite a severe withdrawal headache. And so yeah, if that happens to anyone else, it's that if you've not made the connection between your headaches and chocolate, my solution to that is just to eat chocolate every day rather than not eat it at all. But I don't know if anyone else.
Good plan. And there's a friend of mine called Marcos, very bad connection. Drinking and eating chocolate give you a different type of energy, I think.
Yes, that makes sense. I don't often drink chocolate, but it does make me more buzzy, I think, than eating it. I wonder if it's like goes into your bloodstream more quickly or something. And Chantal, any tips for, sorry, you're fixing your connection, but before you go, if you have some further tips for people with regards to, because I know there's a lot of people have been interested in the fair trade question and what else we should look out for, perhaps instead of fair trade. See if she comes back. Does anyone have any questions in the meantime? I'm going to share my screen because I put a list of all of them in case you wanted to screenshot it, or just for your reminder.
With the fair trade thing, it's fun to do a little bit of homework on the chocolate that you're interested in. And now that we're at home a lot more often than we used to be, we can't actually physically go into shops and read the labels. But it's pretty easy to check out somebody's website and have a look at the story behind their chocolate. And you can get a pretty good sense of when people are telling a story that is the right kind of story, a story that's ethically okay. Look at the story behind people's chocolates, and you will find in most cases, if there are small scale artisanal chocolate makers, that they're going about it in the right way. And it's fun to do the research. So look into the story behind the chocolate that you're enjoying.
That is exactly what I would say as well. If there are no more questions, I will say thank you so much for your time, everyone. It's been so nice to see you all on this Sunday, especially as we're all trapped in our homes, more or less, most of us. I really appreciate you sharing your time with me, and especially appreciate Andrew and Chantal for sharing their knowledge and insight and their thoughts on the chocolate for you all.
Thank you, Jen. Great honor, huge pleasure. Thank you so much.